Here on WTMJ is a Marquette alum. She's now living in New York City, working for the NBA. She's also a mental health advocate. She's Jenny Fischer. Jenny, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And a former WTMJ intern, very proud of that piece as well. I wanted to make sure I mentioned it.
Star intern, I tell everyone. Was our star intern.
Oh my goodness.
So, Jen, I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes because you started a really cool mental health awareness campaign 1 year ago, about like, right? 1 year ago. It Keep Showing Up. Is it the Keep Showing Up project? How do you define what it is that you do?
It's a campaign, it's kind of a mission. I used to call it a passion project, but now I feel like it's blossomed into almost a nonprofit. It's just this kind of thing that began, like you said, about a year ago now. I had started it because of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month last year. And basically, I had just moved to New York. I was sitting in my apartment, I was journaling, and I was writing about how I used to always do the Out of the Darkness walks. There's one in Milwaukee that AFSP, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, puts on. And I would do that every year. I would walk with a bunch of Marquette friends, whoever, raise a bunch of money, ask for donations, and that would kind of be our thing. And now I was here sitting in the middle of COVID alone in New York City. Like, what can I do? Because there's no walks. I don't just want to ask people to shell out money and, for what? I mean, it is a good cause, but I was like, what is the incentive? How can I really rally people? And that's when it came to my mind. I had made the shirt about a year or two prior for a friend and I, just because like it's one of my favorite mottos, keep showing up. And it's kind of how I try to live my life. And the original quote that I had first seen it came from Desi Linden, who's an Olympic runner. And basically the quote goes, some days it'll feel like you're born to do this. Other days it'll feel like you're trudging through hell. No matter what, keep showing up, seeing what you've got and giving it your best shot. And I feel like that just resonated with me in so many ways. But then I figured that why would this not pair with suicide prevention, mental health awareness, everything that I'm trying to encompass, and what do I want to do with this? So I took the same design, I put it on a shirt. I found a website that would let me donate directly all of the proceeds to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I had put out a tweet that basically said, hey, if anyone's interested, I think I want to do this. Hit me with your size of your shirt, your address, and I'll make sure to ship you one and I'll donate all of the money. I had like 100 people reach out. I thought I would get like 50 max. Keep in mind, I decided to ship all the shirts to my tiny New York apartment. And so I had like giant boxes of shirts coming to my apartment, and I was writing handwritten notes for every single one at the time, thanking people and shipping them out to their final destination. And it was a really cool like moment for me. But then I realized like, oh, more people want the shirts and more people want to keep talking about this. And we have a whole month. I might as well keep going. And now it's gotten to the point where I've just kind of continually renewed the fundraiser online. I've continued to do different things for outreach. I brought a pack of shirts to the G League bubble with me, and a bunch of players took them and wore them. And I mean, it's just grown into this giant thing. Kevin Love ended up getting a shirt. Juju Smith-Schuster donated $1,000 and bought like 10 shirts. The gamer Ninja, which I'm not that level of gaming, but I do know who he is. And his wife actually went to college at Whitewater with my brother. They donated $2,000 and then bought a bunch of shirts. And so again, and those are just the big stories, right? I think the bigger part of this is the grassroots. The fact that people are sharing this, wearing this, talking about it is the part that really amazes me the most. So long story short, it's been a journey, and it's continued this long, and I'm just excited to see how much further it can go.
Social media is such a rough place to be a lot of times, but this is one bright spot. I see it when it pops up on my social media, and it makes me smile, not only because I know you and it's something that's been very successful, but it's such a positive and strong message. Was the social media outreach portion of what you've been doing, was that part of your plan from the beginning, or was that just like a natural growth and extension of the shirts because people wanted to show them off?
I will say the marketing portion from my end, I was like, of course I have to put this on social media because I can't go sell these on the street in New York. I can't even go hand them out to people. So from the internal side, I was like, of course the social media part will play a huge role. I did not expect for people to get the shirts, post them, and then people to be like, where do I get that? And maybe I should have, maybe I was naive, but the fact that people are getting them and posting them, and now it's become this ripple effect. That's probably been the biggest factor in why it's been as successful as it is. Because again, like for Juju Smith-Schuster, for example, someone had brought it to him and said, I think you might like this. He saw it visibly and then was able to donate the money. And then when Ninja and his wife had, donated all that money, they said, oh, we saw Juju did it. And so it's like this whole, it's just, again, the visible factor of it is something that I undersold in the planning, but I am grateful that it's played out in the way that it did.
I know this is something that's very near and dear to your heart. I know your story. It's a very powerful one. And if you would, could you just share a little bit about that and why were you so inspired to launch this effort and then 12 months later, through a pandemic, keep it going?
Yeah, well, I should also add that at the time when I was thinking about creating this whole campaign and trying to raise money, it was leading up to the 10-year anniversary of losing my mom. So I lost my mom to suicide when I was 13 years old. I was the one to find her, and it was just a world-crushing tragedy. I don't know a better way of wording it. And I'm very adamant about the fact that, like, yes, it was really, really sad. It still affects me to this day, of course, but there is another side to the coin. There is another way to react to tragedy and how to figure out how to turn, to be in the fight for good, I think is the way that I like to look at it. Like, you can either really succumb to what's happened or you can be in the fight for good. And I felt like I wanted to do more for that fight for good, obviously fueled by my story and what's happened and my mom. And I'll also add that this is a part of my story that I don't talk about as much, but actually when I was an intern at WTMJ, I lost my grandpa to suicide, my mom's father. And that was just another piece of this that adds to my level of care, of course, but it just makes my drive to want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone ever again even stronger. I'm very adamant about the fact that this is a 100% preventable thing. Suicide is completely preventable. And to keep showing up for ourselves and each other, I think is like the main foundation. I know that words of encouragement and all of that can't change the world, but what I really think is that this creates conversation, and to be able to talk about it, even when we're at a distance and isolated or sometimes even quarantined, it depends. But in this time, in this era of our lives, and as a generation, I feel like being able to know that we will keep showing up for ourselves and for others in some different way rather than, awkwardly having to bring it up. It's like, oh, what's that shirt mean? And I had a guy stop me on the subway the other day and ask me, and I told him, and he was like, I love how unattached to the outcome it is. You just keep showing up and you see what happens. And I was like, I haven't even thought about it from that perspective. So yes, my story fuels me completely, but I want to make sure, again, this is just so beyond me at the same time. And I love the fact that other people have been able to cling to it for a sense of peace, a sense of purpose, passion, whatever it may be.
Sharing something like this, doing something like this is not a one-way street. I'm sure when you said when you were first selling these and you were writing handwritten notes to everyone and being able to share a little bit of yourself with the people who were purchasing a t-shirt or writing a note to you or donating in some way. Have you found it to work the other way? I can imagine you did, right? When you share your story, people are just more open to sharing theirs. Was that something that you expected at all when you started this project?
Completely unexpected, but completely happened. I mean, I've had multiple people reach out to me and been able to connect about their own mental health issues. Or something I'll say too is that women are less likely to die by suicide than men. And I had a young woman reach out to me that told me that she had lost her mom as well. And it's just like a rarity, I feel like, to come across people that are in that similar of a situation, especially when it comes to suicide. And so to be able to connect with people that sometimes you can feel so alone in your grief or your tragedy, to be able to come together and again under the umbrella of something that is so positive, not the issue, the tragedy, the problem itself, but to be on the fight for good, I think is the even more special part about it.
You've covered sports from the NCAA to the WNBA, as we mentioned at the top of this interview, and the NBA. How have you found athletes and coaches? I know you've had an opportunity to sit down with several of them, and whether it comes up organically or not, have you found that the topic comes up more because you have a guy like a Kyrie Irving or someone like that who's willing to sit out games, or this year he stepped away from the team for a little while to deal with whatever he was going through? Have you found that it's more likely to come up, just their stories? Are they more willing to share things off the court, off the field, away from the baseball diamond than maybe they were 4, 5, 6 years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just become so much more welcomed. And the fact that we all have mental health and the fact that sometimes we tend to struggle with ours, especially athletes who are under immense pressure. Like I found when I was in the G League bubble, it was media day. I'm interviewing players, and this one guy, Justin Patton, just starts naturally bringing up, I want to be a good role model for my daughter and be in the fight for mental health because I want her to grow up in a world where it's okay to talk about it. And I have an older sister as well. And again, I know it's not sports related, but she talks to her son about grandma and how grandma passed away and tries to make it a little more normalized than it might have been in past generations. And so I think specifically in athletics, though, people are willing to talk about it and they want to talk about it because, again, the immense pressures, being able to still be successful, still be happy, and work through what is going on. And again, it's okay not to be okay. It's been said a million times. You can struggle with it and still not let it be who you are. Like I always like to point out, I don't say like I'm depressed. I like to say like I have depression. Something where it actually literally separates. And again, it's verbiage. It might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's like we don't have to be what happened to us or how we're feeling. We can be on the fight for good. We can keep showing up and we can find a way through it. And I think athletes are just, the example for the rest of the world in that measure.
Are you surprised at where this journey has taken you a year later? Are you surprised that you wanted to do this for so long and keep it going? Are you surprised that you found a new outlet? I guess, how did this affect you when you launched it and now a year later?
I remember I said to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm not just going to make this a side hustle COVID thing, because I felt like at the time, so many people were just picking up projects, doing podcasts, doing all this stuff. And it was all good things. But I was like, what's going to happen once they have their lives back a little bit? They get a little bit busier. Like, are these really great things just going to fall to the side? And this was something that I didn't want to have crash and burn or just like be given up on passively because I got too busy. And so like I would take little bits of breaks when I was in the G League bubble. Again, I brought a pack of shirts down, but I wasn't really tweeting about it. I made a joke that like Jimmy Butler had his big face coffee in the NBA bubble, which of course another Marquette alum, I had to mention it. But I like had a bag of shirts and decided like, hey, I'm going to have my little keep showing up pop up. And so little things like that, I really had to figure out a way because again, I feel as though I have a very demanding job at times, especially working in social media where I have to be on for my work purposes at all times, trying to also ration and figure out times where I could post to my own personal social media and do things there has been a journey. But again, there's also been crossovers. Again, Kevin Love getting the shirt. I actually today had the Washington Wizards reach out about their team wanting to wear the shirts. And so it's cool to find the crossover, but I also have had to find time to make time for my own mental health and sanity because having a full-time job and then doing this at the same time has been a lot, but super worthwhile.
So where does this money go? I know it's very important for you to actually be able to do something with this and not just have it be a side hustle and something that looks cool on Instagram. So where does the money go and how does it help?
Yeah, the money goes directly to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which again, I mentioned earlier, they do those walks for one thing, but they also do a ton of research, outreach, a lot of good stuff. I encourage people to go to their website just to learn more. I believe it's afspnational.com, but I can double check. But all of the money, 100% of the proceeds go there. That was also really important to me. I had people say, why not 90%? Why not 50%? Get some coin in your pocket. And I think for me, I said, like, this is the best possible way that I could spend this money. Maybe if I were to turn this into an actual business of some sort, of course, would have to figure out a better way. But for now, I want to keep it that way as long as I possibly can. So all of the proceeds going directly to that charity. Of course, there's the cost of the shirt that gets canceled out of there. But again, all of the money made goes directly to AFSP.
Has anything surprised you, or I guess let me rephrase that. What has surprised you most going through this for a year? Is it the support that people have given? Is it the stories that people have shared? Is it something that you found within yourself?
It's a good question. The first one to come to mind is the blind support, like the people I don't know, the people I haven't met, the people I've never talked to, and they're posting and they're reaching out to me. And even today, I have a coworker that I've met in person a handful of times, and he said, "Hey, Jenny, I ironed the shirt today, posted it to my Instagram. I reached out to 5 of my friends and I said, if you don't buy this shirt, I'm not your friend anymore." And I was like, whoa, 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 where's this? And it's just like this support, like the outpour from people that you least expect it from is one of the most rewarding things, because again, I'm like, why would they possibly do that? But you really learn that like people realize that I'm trying to do a good thing and they try to do a good thing in return, because again, you get a shirt out of it, you get to support a cause, and then you also get to join this community of people where you know that they're all in it to keep showing up, and so are you. And so it's kind of this 3-pronged effort that's become, again, much larger than I think I may realize. But the biggest surprise is probably the blind support. But I would also say for myself, like learning how to keep showing up for a lot of people and for a cause, while also still showing up for myself.
Real quick before I let you go, you talked about, Juju Smith-Schuster and the Wizards and Kevin Love and support like that. A lot of times we look at professional athletes and they're on this other planet, right? They do these, they can do whatever they want. They're athletes. They can take time off. They can do controversial protests. They can do not so controversial things. Does the top-down discussion of mental health, does that have an effect on the 13-year-old, the 18-year-old, the 38-year-old person who might be suffering and can see, an idol, if you're a kid, or a pro athlete, say, yeah, look, I go through this as well. It's okay for me to talk about it. Do you see that top-down discussion happening?
I think so, because again, even the example of Justin Patton from G League Media Day talking to his daughter about it. And again, I know there's these circles of care, right? There's your family and friends, there's your colleagues, and then it kind of expands as you go out. I feel like getting to the people that you don't know is like now that sphere that I'm trying to focus on. And I think that may be one of the most important ones, because it's so easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's always easy. It is easier because you know them to check in on your people, right? But to make sure that collectively we're caring about others that we may not even know, I think that is a top-down effect, because you see, again, Kevin Love has been like an idol for me in this space. He was the first person I saw in basketball talk openly about mental health, like that I really like noticed and stuck to. And now as I've done more research, I've noticed other WNBA players in the past and NBA and so on and so forth that have really opened up about it and their experiences. But I think Kevin Love for me has been the one where it's like he had the panic attack on the court. He wrote the Players Tribune article about it. And then it became, he has his own foundation. He's doing so much work for it on the side as well, where I was like, this is having effect on young kids who are basketball fans, Kevin Love fans, Cleveland Cavalier fans, what have you. But it's having an effect way beyond that as well.
Jenny, thank you so much. If people want to donate, if they want to get a shirt, how do they find you? How do they find the shirts?
Yes, easiest way is probably on Twitter or on Instagram. It's at Jenny Lynn Fish. That's JennyLynnFisch. And I have linked it in my bio on both of them. I also try to pin it on my Twitter to make it easier to find. It's a little bit of a longer link, but to make sure I am correct, and hopefully you can edit out this slight pause.
Oh, we're just gonna keep it live. I'll just fill the time. I'll just keep talking. Not a big deal.
It's custominc.com, and then it's /fundraising /keep showing up.
All right. Awesome.
Easy enough, long enough, but yes, easiest way is my personal socials.
Absolutely. Jenny, thank you so much again for giving me some time today. I appreciate it. We miss you in Milwaukee. Hopefully we see you back here from New York sometime, maybe during Bucks season. And,
yes, when the Bucks run it back for their second title.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Jenny,
second in 2 years.
There you go. Exactly. Jenny, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Mike.